Hey, we got some new spooky season merch over at eyepatchwolves.com. The Shining is one of my favorite films of all time. In fact, gun to my head, depending on the day, it might be my favorite film ever. It's like a toss-up between that and like two others. But I think out of all the films in existence, it is the one that showed me what absolute, like, true fear is. And I always remember, I've told this story in videos before, but when I was a little one, and I was at a friend's sleepover and we were watching Twister, there's a moment in that film where on the cinema screen in Twister, before like a tornado like rips it apart, you can see the hallway scene from The Shining, the two twins little girl scene from The Shining, and it scared me so fucking badly that my parents had to take me home. Just that one shot, and my friend being like, oh yeah, that's The Shining, my mom told me about that movie. That started a lifelong fascination with it, and I love it so dearly, and it is, like, you know, rightfully celebrated as one of the greatest horror films of all time, and like, it really, really is. I feel like a good way to kind of like categorize like how iconic a horror film is looking at how many like utterly fucking culture destroying moments of terror it has. Like, how many iconic moments of fear does a film have? So say you take something like Scream. I think arguably Scream has two really terrifying moments that still get talked about today. You have like the opening scene at the start, and then you have the reveal of the killer. The Shining has like at least five. Like, it has room 237, it has the blood elevator, it has the twins, it has the hedge maze, it has the typewriter. Like, the amount those five moments have been like parodied and repeated over the years, and they all come from the same fucking movie. And it's kind of a fucking masterpiece, like as close to a masterpiece as horror has. But what's interesting is that it wasn't always received that way. When The Shining came out first, people did not like it at all. Like, and when I've been going through like the old reviews and stuff, and the basic gist is people just had no fucking idea what to make of it. They couldn't like understand it. Horror films were things that were usually like very fast paced. There was a lot of like quick edits and quick cuts, and like there was a kind of semi-action scene where, you know, the killer would come after the protagonist with a knife or whatever. And so much of The Shining was slow. So much of it was just haunting and just these characters existing in these big empty spaces. It's really crazy to go back and see how people just didn't know what to make of that. Like, listen to some of the old reviews here. The supernatural story knows frustratingly little rhyme or reason. Even the film's most startling, horrific images seem overbearing and perhaps even irrelevant. Okay, that's one review. Here's another one. With everything to work with, Kubrick has teamed with jumpy Jack Nicholson to destroy all that was so terrifying about Stephen King's bestseller. This is, okay, Siskel of Siskel and Ebert says, a crashing disappointment. The biggest surprise is that it contains virtually no thrills. Imagine looking at the fucking blood elevator scene and just being like, yep. It's mind-blowing. Given Kubrick's world-class reputation, one's immediate reaction is that maybe he was after something other than thrills in this film. If so, it's hard to figure out what. So yeah, it's fucking crazy. It is so crazy to see people react that way to what is like now a nearly universally beloved horror film. But the biggest critic of all was Stephen King, the writer of the Shining book. And I just want to say here, like, I love Stephen King. I am a huge Stephen King fan. I think arguably, to this day, you would struggle to find a single individual who has affected horror more than Stephen King. And I love his short stories, I love his books. Some of them are garbage, some of them are fucking awesome, but I love Stephen King. He did not love The Shining. I dug out some Stephen King quotes here. I think The Shining is a beautiful film and it looks terrific. And as I've said before, It's like a big, beautiful Cadillac with no engine inside it. In that sense, when it opened, a lot of reviews weren't very favorable, and I was one of those reviews. I kept my mouth shut at the time, but I didn't care for it much. And like he has talked at length about this stuff. The character of Jack Torrance has no arc in that movie. Absolutely no arc at all. When we first see Jack Torrance, he's in the office of Mr. Ullman, the manager of the hotel, and you know then he's crazy as a shithouse rat. All he does is get crazier. In the book, he's a guy who's struggling with his sanity and finally loses it. To me, that's a tragedy. In the movie, there's no tragedy because there's no real change. So the quote that I read, and this, I have never been able to source this quote, and I would love to. It's something it was on the Shining's IMDb page, and it's credited Stephen King. Don't know where it came from. Don't even know if it's real, but it sounds real to me. And it is, he said that The Shining was a film made to hurt people. So basically it had no heart. It was just this cynical, cold nightmare of a film. And he's right, but he's wrong about how valuable that is. But anyway, look, you know, someone can dislike The Shining. It's possible. It's not a big deal. And I could understand someone being in love with The Shining novel could have problems with it. The only problem is that Stephen King himself decided that he was going to remake The Shining in 1997 and created a 3-part television series. And this was called Stephen King's The Shining. I really got to admire the balls of being willing to remake one of the most beloved films at all time, because like by the late 90s The Shining was beloved. Like it had got its flowers at that point. And the result is one of the fucking silliest films of all time. So this is a film that follows the book much more closely. And like, just for the record, the book is terrifying. The book is absolutely horrifying and I love it. The best way I could describe this movie, it's imagine The Shining if it was a Hallmark holiday movie. That is what it feels like. This movie is so silly and goofy in so many ways, and so many parts that are like visceral and like terrifying about The Shining are just not in this movie. Like the two main actors in it. So originally you had Shelley Duvall and Jack Nicholson. And Shelley Duvall famously like really suffered on the set of The Shining. It was an intense shoot. Kubrick is notoriously demanding and difficult to work with, and he was really hard on her. Now, he did get like an incredible performance out of her, but that doesn't necessarily justify the pain she went through on set. But she does give an absolutely phenomenal performance. I think it's impossible to look at Shelley Duvall's face in this movie and not empathize with the terror she is feeling in these scenes. And that is not the case with this other actor. The new actor is like fine. She is this incredibly like beautiful woman, just an absolute knockout, but not necessarily someone who I think is, you know, adept at conveying terror, at least on the level Shelley Duvall did. She's kind of just like her co-host. They're both just kind of hot. Whereas in the original Shining, it's like Jack Nicholson and Shelley Duvall. They spend a lot of that film looking fucking weird, but it like gives you no comfort. This is a movie without like any place you can rest. It's just a nightmare from the moment it starts. Beyond this, there's so many scenes in this movie where a normal scene happens and then it like ends by panning over to like a door, and then like a ghost closes the door, and it's like, well, maybe a ghost did it. And like, it's so fucking silly. Incidentally, Shelley Duvall won a Golden Raspberry for her role in The Shining, which to this day is just the most fucking out of pocket shit I have ever heard in my life. But yeah, it is a very silly movie. One thing, there are some interesting things about this movie, though. Like, I think there are some salvageable things about it. If you like kind of garbagey horror, there is actually some stuff to like here. And part of it is the location. This movie was actually shot in the hotel that inspired Stephen King's The Shining. A place that I have actually been. I took a tour there with my friend Oni, and it was a absolutely delightful time. I actually got kind of shit-faced in the bar of The Shining. The elevation was real high. It's like up in the mountains. and I had like two of these absolutely delicious old fashions there, and it was like a room 237 old fashioned or something, and just didn't account for the fact that I was so high up would get me drunk much quicker. And I was really fucked up, and I was getting this tour from the guide, and at one point he kind of walks past me and he looks at me and he goes, "We having a good time there, sir?" And I was like, "Yes, yeah, yes I am." And that was really funny. But that location is cool, and the way it's shot in this movie is like interesting. Like, I love the shots of the hallways, and like there are some parts of it where it kind of touches on like the isolation and the nightmare that these characters are in, you know. But when you compare it with those similar shots, like that, there's one shot from the original Shining, and it's Shelley Duvall. I think she's clutching a baseball bat, walking through the massive open like lounge area, and it's just fucking incredible. You don't get any of that. What you do get is a bunch of weird CGI. There's definitely like some shots in this where they thought it was the late 90s and CGI was scary. There is a ghost like fire hose that attacks Danny with like gnashing teeth, and it's so silly. There's a werewolf man who like jumps out at him, and he's literally like, "Oh, boogie boogie Danny, I'm gonna get you," and it's so fucking dumb. But I think the peak of it is in the original Shining. There's actually a few parts of The Shining that like don't appear in either version. There's like a spider baby who lives in the playground in the book. But one part that they don't touch on at all is that there's hedge animals, haunted hedge animals in The Shining, and they appear in this film, and they have some of the most garbage CGI you will ever see, and it is a fucking riot. It is so much fun. If you can't tell, I actually kind of love this miniseries. No, it's not anywhere close or good for any of the same reasons as the original Shining. In fact, like all those iconic horror moments I mentioned earlier, the blood elevator, the typewriter scene, the twins, the maze, like 4 out of 5 of the iconic like Shining moments are not in this movie. The only part it does keep is room 237, but it's very different in this version. In this version, you don't really see what happens when Jack goes into room 237. In this version, it's room 217. But you do see what happens when Danny goes in. Danny goes in, and he's the one who has the encounter with the bathtub lady. And look, here's what I'll say. I love making fun of this movie. I think this is an incredibly silly movie. The bathtub lady in this movie is fucking terrifying. She's still really scary. It's probably the only part of this entire miniseries that to me actually feels like a genuine, scary, nasty thing. But this part still really, really creeps me out. It's the makeup on the woman, it's the way the scene is shot, it's the acting of the woman herself. She is really awful, and it is actually the like lone piece of really effective horror in this movie. But yeah, I kind of wanted to talk about it just because I like to revisit this film every October along with the original Shining. If you want to hear me talk more about like the actual Shining and why it's like fucking the greatest horror film of all time, I have a video essay on it over on Super Eyepatch Wolf from way back in the day. We're also going to be talking about it on Versus Wolves this Friday. So yeah, check it out. Both films are absolutely worth experiencing. If I was to rate both on a scale, I would say the original Shining, on my 7-point scale, it gets a 7. It is just a film that completely changed my life for the better, and I love it. The 1997 Stephen King version, you know, I'm going to give that a 4 because it's a stupid but very cozy horror movie that I really just love to soak in, and it's one of my favorite things to watch with Michelle. And yeah, those are my thoughts on those things. Goodbye.